And well, what do we have here? One beautiful okay then, so let's get moving with this little toilet project and get what's in that box where it belongs and of use, because Andrea returns today from visiting her parents and I'd like her to be the first to admire its awesomeness. Okay, let's get going. I think we really have to start today off with a look at what's in the box. Well, that seems reasonable. A toilet seat, yes, yes. Some instructions, yes, 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 yes. And well, what do we have here? One beautiful Raritan Marine Elegance macerating residential style, full height, straight back, white porcelain, the quietest macerating toilet on the market. This is actually a very nice toilet. This is going to take a while to break up into the marina garbage here. All right, no time like the present. Okay, the thing about the Raritan Marine Elegance and, well, macerating toilets in general, there's a really good this is a result of an interaction with a tiny little dog that doesn't like me very much, although the interaction was entirely my fault, entirely. Anyway, macerating toilets are ideal in the sense that now that we have to use holding tanks, there's no more flushing overboard anymore. There's a huge advantage if you're able to take all the material that goes into the toilet and turn it into a slurry in the tank, because it'll make emptying the tank a lot easier later. As I mentioned in the previous episode, there's two main ways of, looks like there's only two at all that I can think of that are pleasant anyway, of emptying the holding tank, and that is by pumping out with a pump overboard macerating pump, or by having it sucked out of the marina with a vacuum pump. The latter has a wide degree of power. Sometimes they're fantastic and they'll evacuate your tank really quite quickly, and sometimes they're really quite weak. That's one of the reasons I actually put the discharge port in the bottom of the tank. Many people said, well, just put a pipe down from the top. Much simpler, much tidier, and yes, I completely agree. Except many times the macerating pump needs to be primed, in other words the one that's on board, and it can't manage to lift it up that far, especially if there's some solids in there. So I'm kind of hoping a combination of effects, we won't have any trouble with this system. You may have noticed that I didn't actually install a macerating pump yet because I don't have a through hull for it. Plus I can't afford it, and Home is not really going to be doing really extensive cruising for a little while. It's a 33-gallon tank, and that should last quite a long time, at least between marina hops. Anyway, so let's get looking at where this is going to go. Okay, I've spent quite a bit of time figuring out exactly where it's going to sit, and it's time to install it. They've modified the bracket system. These are going to go underneath inside, and they use the one of these holes has to be right method of mounting it. Anyway, no harm, no harm. Now this is a Marine Elegance toilet by Raritan, and it is a lovely toilet. I've installed one on Zephyrus and it works beautifully, mainly because it is very quiet, and I have heard many toilets that are not. Pull this aside. Now I'm to measure 7/16 of an inch from here, and then a further inch from there. Now, because I am very close to the bottom of the boat, I do not want that pilot bit to shoot through and drill a hole in the very, very soft yellow cedar bottom. So I'm going to remove the pilot bit for the balance of this cut. Ooh, that's hot. All right. Yep, this hole saw is about done. Whew. seems to be nice and snug with lots of available holes in the right locations. Okay, once more into the breach. Oh, that's fabulous. Someone asked me if I could still get the fenders out. Gosh, I hope so. Happily the steering cable is still a bit slack, so yeah, no, that'll be no trouble at all. Okay, more on the whole steering cable, steering quadrant thing coming up. All right, so let's sort out this hose. I'm gonna say right about there. This stuff is no joy to cut, but still a lot easier than several of the other variants. It helps if you put a little flex on the hose so that it opens the kerf a bit. And as I already have a huge bandage on my hand, I'm keeping my other hand well clear. Okay, when you get to the reinforcement in there, it's side cutters. There we go. If you're so inclined, you can give it a little tidy up. Okay, as I was just in General Bay, I was able to get the heat gun, which will help with this. I've had people say just dip it in hot water, and that's very true. I've done that in the past. This would be difficult to dip in hot water as it's sticking straight up in the air. A little soapy water to make it go a little bit simpler, and hose clamp, and let's see how we do. Oh, very nice, very nice. Okay, excellent. Whew. Now this fitting is only ever in vacuum, so I don't worry too much about it. I had at least one recommendation from a fellow who I respect tremendously, suggest that I should have double clamped the fitting at the bottom. And in retrospect, I'm wondering if I should have, except as I said, this hose is only ever in vacuum, so it's not very likely to give me trouble. Okay, excellent. Woohoo! The pump outside of this is done. Now on with some ventage. As I mentioned, there's a vent on both sides. The vent is going to come out of here, work its way up through here and out through the side of the boat. Now you might say it's tempting to go straight sideways, but I don't want another hose here because this, as I said, I'm going to close off at some point, and I'd rather have some available storage here. So I'm going to come as close to this one as I can, so all the hoses are kind of clustered together. So I believe I'm going to come up right beside it and then go out right actually down here because there's a big rubbing strake right there, and so it gets a bit busy right in here. It's tempting to come to here just to make life a little simpler, but let me give this some thought. And to be fair, some of the thought involves this. This is classic PVC pipe for residential. I have some pipe to go with it, and that's what's going to go through the side of the boat. Don't be too annoyed by that. It is not a regular boat vent, but I need a large volume and I want something simple and easy to make a hose connection to, thus the cheap hardware store insert adapter, which I wasn't able to find in nylon. Now what'll happen as the pipe goes through the side of the boat, it'll all be sealed in place and bonded, and then I'll use something like this beautiful little bronze clamshell over it, one on each side, so that they look quite pretty and appropriate. If I had two of these, I'd be very happy. I only have one, and I'm going to keep my eyes open. They pop up every once in a while. Okay, so I think, to be fair, it'll go here, right there. Yeah. First, I have to determine where the rub rail is on the outside. I've determined by sophisticated measuring tape and eyeballing from this split on the outside that the bottom of the rub rail is at 18 inches. So anything below there is fair game. Now, you might say, Peter, why not just go through where the hull is? Well, as I say, the rub rail is quite tall on this boat. In fact, I couldn't get the whole fitting above it in this space anyway. And I'd rather it was below the rub rail. It's just a little more discreet. It's still well above the waterline. It does mean I have to go through this extra board. That's not a concern. That's not a concern at all. And here's the PVC pipe that's going to go out through the boat. And here's the brand new hole saw I bought that is just slightly larger. Why I didn't have a, well, completely rudimentary 2-inch hole saw before, I cannot say. Nice. Now, as I mentioned, that's the bottom of the rub rail outside, but if I intend to use something like this, That's going to have to sit below the bottom of the rub rail too, so my hole is going to have to be about here. Of course it's unnerving drilling a hole in the side of the boat. It always is. And onward through the real part. Now, of course, every time you're using a hole saw and you're going through to a side that is pretty, once the hole goes through, you just work from the other side so that you don't have a blowout. The problem is, the boat is moving and coming close to the dock. I should be able to do this. Windy day for this. Okay, good. I've just discovered something that's very interesting to me. I understood that this boat was backwards from the normal cedar planking arrangement. Most of the monks, Geordie, Zephyrus, etc., are yellow cedar below the waterline and red cedar above the waterline, meaning red cedar is slightly more stable, it holds the joints better, and yellow cedar is more rot resistant, it's better underwater. But this is, I believe, red cedar. And I can tell you, by the time I drill this hole, which is yellow cedar, I'll be very certain. Yeah, that's red cedar. And that's good, because I didn't like the idea of red cedar below the waterline. It doesn't make any sense at all. Okie doke. Yellow cedar, red cedar. Now there is one other real distinct disadvantage of using these fittings. They're oversized. They're much harder to insert. Much hard. You know, there's one other supplier I could try. It's going to cost me an hour and a half, but let's go do it. Okay, that's a little better. Look at those, they're quite sweet. Okay, let's get rid of this junk. There we go. Nice. Okay. Nice, nice, nice. I grabbed pipe dope, basically joint compound, not glue. All right. This'll do for a little while, and I can glue that up properly later. I've just discovered another flaw in my design, and some of you may have just noticed it, and that is that for this hose to run between here and the vent, it has a dip in it. And of course, if it has a dip in it, if water gets into that dip, then it will no longer work as a vent. Now that's generally not a problem in traditional vents, because what happens every time the vacuum, either the macerator or the marina vacuum, sucks out the tank, it'll suck any water out of that loop. But because I have two vents, it's not guaranteed to suck them both out, because once it sucks one out, that's the easiest route for air to get back in, and the other one may not get sucked out. So I've been back to the hardware store, and most importantly, I got the correct solvent for this PVC pipe. But also, I got fittings for a new approach. As I described to you before, the way I have it set up now creates a loop, a low loop that could fill with water and may not get cleared properly when the boat is pumped out. And I don't like that. So I'm going to change the way this works a little bit. I bought some new 90s. So I'll put a 90 here where it comes in from the outside. I'll put more pipe down below the deck, and then I'll put a 90 facing off about like that so that the hose can stay horizontal as it swoops from here and over onto the tank. And I think that will work out just fine. Splendid. Alright then, very pleased with the way this worked out. We're vented to starboard and we're vented to port, and everything is buttoned up nicely. And because there's still a little room in here, I still have room for lines. Although as soon as I did that, I realized I don't like that at all, because they could fall in and foul a quadrant. Anyway, how about this? Now this is going to be a bit of a fiddle. Okay. Well, if you do a little tour on the back side here, you can see the monster motor at the bottom, which is the macerator, which does all the work, and it basically grinds up whatever's in there and sends it out this hose and out this fitting here. And then when you want to fill the toilet, you'll supply boat fresh water to this fitting here, and this solenoid valve with another push button will let water in the tank. So basically you have one circuit to put water in the tank and one circuit to pump it back out. Thankfully these are both a little bit flexible, this one particularly so, which is very handy when you're doing an installation. Now you can imagine you might be able to do an installation with this coming out the back or down through the floor. The beauty of this toilet is you don't see any hoses once it's installed, which is great. Because a lot of marine toilets, basically the hoses are a significant part of the aesthetic. Well, the downside of that is it's a bit difficult to install in a cramped place. In other words, I'm going to have to be able to get these hoses on while I have about this much room up against the bulkhead. But the flexibility does help an awful lot. So that's what we're up to next. There's one thing I have to do before I can do that though. they put a little rubber strap on this section here, and that you're obliged to connect that up to the toilet seat bolt so that this has a little bit of support when it's in use. This little black cap you see here is an optional downward drain vent. In other words, if the holding tank was well below the toilet, there's the possibility that gravity siphoning would just drain the bowl after every time you use the toilet. So this thing would allow some air back in to break that vacuum. But as I'm pumping upwards, mostly, I leave the cap installed. But I do want it turned out of the way. There we go. My memory of this next step is that it's quite frustrating, and it's going to be exceptionally frustrating with this finger problem I seem to have here. Okay. And then on to the bolt. Like, that's easy. I got it started, and that's all that matters. Whoosh. All right. First off, the freshwater supply. And this should be pretty easy. There we go. Okie doke. All right then, so that I can have the toilet a little bit forward when I make this installation, I'll fish some hose back through, and that I can actually pull back out when the time comes. Okay, let me pull it back out. And that should be far enough over. I can install this. I'm sure you can't see this very well, but let's see if I can get this on. Okay, there we go. That's good. Whew. Okay. Let's undo these. Splendid. Now it's just a matter of getting this to fall in place. Goodness gracious! Great balls of fire! Whew. That actually went remarkably well. Now to wire it up. Now the macerator pump uses a lot of current, so I'm running 10 gauge wire all the way back to the panel. Now I'm going to take advantage of the routing of this, and I'm going to actually route it back and through underneath the cockpit, because I'll use the same circuit actually as the macerator pump that is the discharge pump whenever it's installed, because it's very, very unlikely that anyone's ever going to be flushing the toilet at the exact same moment you're going to be discharging into the ocean. So I'll basically have a macerator circuit. Okay, there's a bit of wire chasing to do. Access to the electrical panel is far from ideal. I have to take the fridge out, but it does work. Okay, and a little PEX work, and we're getting pretty close to having this thing wrapped up. Okay, let's turn the water on and see what happens. This floor fastening system is sort of interesting. Basically, you have a random number of holes, and bound to align with at least one of them. I actually shot downward on a bit of an angle so that when it pulls tight, it actually pulls the toilet down a little bit. And the moment you've all been waiting for, woohoo! Now, to be fair, the pump is right here, so it's a bit noisy. That's the pressure pump. On the macerating side, absolutely fantastic. We'll refill it again. The switches I have are push and push again. kind of handy. Don't have to hold them too long. And there it is, ready for Andrea's first admiration of how lovely it is. And she'll be home in just a few minutes, so it's perfect timing. Soft close. Very soft. And it's installed and functional. Now, of course, this is still just the toilet at the foot of our bed. There will be an enclosed head at some point. I think I've done a 3D. I'm sure you've all seen. Maybe I'm showing it to you now. Yes. See, so it is actually a fully enclosed head, and it's actually a very reasonable size. You'd be surprised. Now, it's also going to be a full wet shower head. In other words, it's going to have a shower in here as well. The whole room will be a shower. So even this toilet installation is not permanent because, of course, I have to build a shower pan in the bottom of here, which will probably be slate. Love it. Anyway, so that leads to a little bit of discussion about doing things in an interim way. Well, I get a lot of flack for it, actually. Why don't you just do it right the first time and be done with it? Well, to tell you the truth, it's because I can't afford it and I don't have the time. But if I can make something work, we can have a real toilet for the next year or year and a half before probably we change the engine or build the full bathroom, at least with the shower anyway. So sometimes it pays when you live aboard or you use the thing that you're working on to do it in an interim fashion. And the final step, so the marina can come and pump it out tomorrow, is the quick cam lock adapter. And then fabulous, they'll come along and they'll drain whatever we put in it tonight. She's laughing because I've messed it up 2 times already. Hello and welcome to the Travels with Geordie Beer of the Week, coming to you this week from the lovely wheelhouse of MV Poem in downtown Victoria, British Columbia. Let's get straight to the beer. It is the Duchesse de Bourgogne, I believe. Have I completely destroyed that?
Duchesse de Bourgogne.
Duchesse de Bourgogne. Anyway, it's a Belgian...
Wait, hold on. Belgian... Sorry, Flemish red brown ale.
Ah.
It's high in alcohol, I think. Oh, 6.2, not really that high.
Sounds reasonable.
Yeah.
All right. Open and pour. Sounds great. So you got, and be the other end. You got to get the hooky part. There we go. So you got to get home yesterday to a functional toilet.
To a functional toilet.
What did it feel like to be the very first person to admire?
Exciting.
The new
to use the new facilities.
I wasn't actually going to go all the way to tell people about the use of it, but anyway, that's good. That's good. We can do that. Anyway, I am super pleased. How does it smell?
Very strong.
Very strong?
Yeah.
I like it. All right.
Hold on. Uh-oh.
This is fine, perhaps.
Yeah?
For now. Here, let's just trade.
Okay. Aw.
Cheers.
Cheers.
To the new facilities.
To the new facilities.
Wow.
Whoa.
That's like a cask beer.
Yeah, that's
you know
something
what I mean?
else.
It's got a lot of flavor.
It's
Yowza.
like sour.
Wow. It's like a cask beer to me. Actually, I really like this. It's not
good.
my everyday beer, but
no.
Man, that is deliciously yummy.
It's a good sipping.
I can't stop. Oh my gosh. A good sipping?
Like, or no, like it's kind of like a port wine.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah,
it's not just a shoot it back sunny afternoon beer, is it? Oh my gosh, okay, let's do some paperwork. Last week's winner of a Travels Geordie T, actually not last week, it's only on the weekend. JOSA 9902. That's JOSA 9902. Send us off a message at swag@travelswithgeordie.com and I will make sure you get your shirt. Congratulations, JOSA. Like to thank some support via PayPal. Michael Wilcox, who is always so very generous. Thank you ever so much, Michael. And I got a note with this, and it was to be pronounced in the Dutch-Canadian way. So I hope I got this right. Neil Fonger.
Yeah.
I did actually look it up, and Google says it's pronounced Fonger. And somehow I don't believe that. So Neil Fonger, which is very much how I hope that it's pronounced. Thank you ever so much for your support. All right. We're all the way down to, other than cheering these people. Cheers.
Oh, cheers. Sorry.
Way out of
I was
sequence.
waiting for more.
To the word of the week. And, well, much like last week's or last time's, I didn't really want to use any of the words that came to mind. So we're going to use the word facilities. Facilities. There's lots you can do with facilities. It's appropriate. Maybe not the best ever word of the week. Cheers.
Cheers.
See you next week. Oh, you may have noticed Lady Zephyrs has updated my dressing and she's starting to enjoy herself, it seems. Okay.